Today we're going to be talking about how to travel Indonesia.
So we're going to be covering the food, the money and budget that you're going to be spending per day and month, accommodation and transport. As we backpacked through Southeast Asia, we noticed that Indonesia was the most built up for tourists, and not just backpackers, but there was also a lot of families there. Indonesia's caters for families, there's restaurants everywhere.
We ended our trip in Indonesia after travelling for 5 other months around Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam and Philippines. So as it was our last stop, we didn't actually do that much there. However, we still done a decent amount there, and we also have information to give you guys of what we didn't do.
We landed in Bali International Airport and took a cab straight to Seminyak. Throughout our time in Seminyak, we did visit some of the hip cafes, had really good food, swam in the massive waves. If you do want to learn how to surf there, that will probably be your best place to learn. As we were still recovering from our sickness in the Philippines, we didn't get to see a few things. There is an endless amount to do in Seminyak, just look it up.
Our last few hours in Seminyak were actually spent in the hospital, getting checked over by the doctors, and we jumped in a taxi which took us all the way to Ubud, which was probably one of my favourite destinations in all of Asia. It's really relaxing, really peaceful, some really nice restaurants there, some really cool things to do there. To name a few, we went to the monkey forest where we saw these wild monkeys, and they were, to be honest with you, they were evil, man.
They were evil. Please don't bring bananas.
You hear a lot of people say feed them, etc. Do that. Don't feed them. They will attack you. Even if you have a bottle of water on you, they will attack you for the bottle of water. They're quite vicious. Be very careful if you go there. We heard about people that had to go and get surgery because they got attacked by the monkeys. Please be careful.
We're not really
joking
selling
around.
a good light for the monkey forest. It is nice to see, but just be careful.
We also went to Tagalagalang rice terraces. We think that's how it's pronounced, and that was really beautiful. Something very unique. We had never seen anything like before. Ubud is also known for yoga and also for the vegetarian cafes. We had some really good food out there, so make sure you go and have a little look around. Go to loads of different cafes and restaurants.
In Ubud, I did catch dengue fever, which meant I couldn't actually enjoy the rest of my trip. However, there is so much to do in Ubud. There's another rice terrace, there's bike rides that you could do, you could climb Mount Bromo, there's so much that you can do.
Overall, we did have an amazing time in Ubud until Mia felt ill, and definitely recommend going there. As we said before, Indonesia was our last stop, and there is so much more you can do there. People we have seen online who went to the most amazing views. One of the most popular things you do there is actually travel to the Gili Islands. And there they have Gili T, Gili Memo and Gili Air. Apparently they are really beautiful islands, and people say do not miss them, even though we did.
Overall, if you have a month to spend in Indonesia, you can spend that long. There's so much to see and do. Just look it up online, get some research, purchase a How to Travel Southeast Asia on a budget. They will recommend some really good places to visit.
The money and the budget. So we did find that Indonesia was slightly more expensive as it's more for tourism. However, it's still very cheap if you choose wisely. As it was our last few nights in Asia, we did sort of go out a little bit, go to a few restaurants, kick back, chill out. You're going to be looking to spend around £700 to £1,000 for about a month there. We was there for around 3 weeks. We was quite ill, so we didn't have like a exact budget that we spent. But £700 to £1,000 is a reasonable budget to spend out there.
Don't forget, there's so many activities to do in Indonesia, so you can really see how your budget can lead to £800 to £1,000 a month. However, it is still cheap. You can live off £600 if you've done no activities.
So the accommodation in Indonesia is going to be extremely cheap. We found hostels and hotels from £4 to £5, but sometimes we stayed in hotels that were up to maybe £10 to £15. It's what you want to do.
Food. We found the food to be the most expensive in the whole of Asia, but it's still really cheap. If you go to a restaurant, expect to pay around £4 to £5 for a meal. There isn't many street food stalls around. You'll have to go to restaurants, but it's still cheap, around £4 to £5 a meal. I know you're in Indonesia, but you have to try the Western food restaurants because they are amazing. We had some of the best food in Indonesia.
So in Indonesia, you will see a lot of bluebird taxis, and they are metered. That's pretty much what everybody gets around. And they are a bit more pricey, but they're still very cheap. So we'd say just jump in them. It's your safest option, and you're not going to get ripped off, as you know, it's on a meter. Coaches and taxis are the only way you're going to get around. That's what we got around. Even our first hotel we stayed at took us back to Seminyak in a cab.
To travel around the local areas, you will of course rent out mopeds. A lot of the places that you are going to want to go to will require you to rent out a moped. They're super cheap, around £2.50 to £5 for 24 hours. And my recommendation would be to book it through your hotel. It's more safe, it could be more cheaper, and you know you're not getting ripped off.
So now we're just going to give you some tips for Indonesia when you're travelling there. Tip number 1, if you are going to be getting out a moped, be careful for the police out there. As we did here, they are quite corrupt. Usually you just have to bribe them off, so if you don't have a licence, just be wary.
Tip number 2, you will be granted a 30-day visa on arrival, so don't worry about that, there is no visa costs.
Tip number 3, if you do go to Ubud and you do go to the monkey forest, please be careful. Like we said before, it is not safe.
Tip number 4, I know you don't go to Asia to eat Western foods, but the restaurants are probably better than the food you have at home, so try it.
Tip number 5, make sure you bargain everywhere. There's a lot of shops selling souvenirs and things like that, and you can knock them down a lot. Tip number 7, make sure you go and climb Mount Bromo. We didn't actually do it. Tip number 9, if you are going to be going to Bali, there's so much surfing happening over there. Go and do some surfing. It's a great place to experience it. The waves are huge.
So when you are withdrawing money, the Indonesian money has a lot of zeros in it.
Yep.
I think 1 million is like £10. So really count the zeros and make sure that you're not giving too much money than you should be.
Yeah, we did get confused a few times and did actually give too much. Luckily the people gave it back to us. Can be quite confusing, just learn it beforehand.
And just count your zeros.
Thank you for watching our video on travelling Indonesia. We hope we helped you. Sorry if it was a bit short. We didn't actually do that much there as we felt quite ill, but we thought we'd still put this video together anyway. We did travel around 4 other countries, as we said before: Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines and Cambodia, and we made separate videos on how to travel each of those countries, and we also done an overview on how to travel Southeast Asia.
We will be writing up blog articles in more detail, so if you do want more information or you have any questions asked, then be sure to check out our blog.
And also, if you want any questions, hit us up on our social media, Instagram, Twitter or Facebook, all at me and my missus, or just comment below. Also, one more thing, we did make daily videos when we were out there. We videoed every single day, so go and check out our vlog channel and you'll get a better idea of what it's like to travel Indonesia. Thank you for watching our video and
have fun in Indonesia.